The demand by Southern Governors Forum for the next president of Nigeria in 2023 to come from their region is gathering momentum. Speaking yesterday to our sister outfit, this day in Jos, Plateau State Capital, President of the Middle Belt Forum, Dr. Kweju Bitrus, says, "We agree with them, Southern governors, fully that the president should come from the South. Given the kind of situation we find ourselves in this country, it is only good to allow fairness and equity in this nation." The lawmakers, backed by the governor's rejection of certain provisions of the Petroleum Industry Bill, PIB, passed by the National Assembly. However, the Arewa Consultative Forum, ACF, has urged advocates of power rotation to exercise their discretion on which zone produces the next president in line with the 1999 Constitution that reserves the right to sponsor candidates to contest elections for political parties only. Tundu.
Well, I'm really praying. I'm in a religious mood this morning, clearly. I'm really praying for the day when the majority of Nigerians will express views based on what is right for this country and its future, rather than where they come from. It's most unfortunate that it's predictable that the Middle Belt will support the Southern governors. It's also predictable when you read the statement, that really staggeringly illogical statement from the coalition of northern groups, that they will take the stance that they took. It's so sad that this is where we are as a country. So to go back to the point that was raised, yes, the Southern governors, as one of their resolutions, said they would like to see the presidency return to the South, which makes sense, which is logical after 8 years of President Buhari, who is from the North. However, governors, as influential as they are not the only stakeholder. So that note of caution that you just sounded in that report is correct. As the president told us in the exclusive interview with Arise, people cannot decide from Lagos or wherever you want to put, whatever state you want to put, how to run the party. The party ultimately will decide. But it is hoped that the party will feel the current pulse and not miss the zeitgeist in this country that is demanding inclusion, equity, and the fact that that rotation is not merely cosmetic. It's actually pragmatic. It's necessary to keep the country together, which is what we all hope to do. And this is exactly why we are having all these agitations of secessionists all of a sudden. Everybody is springing up wanting to have their own brand new, I don't know, utopia that they imagine that they'll have, because there's a feeling of a lack of justice, of some people be more equal than others, as Orwell put it. So that is, important there. But to go back to that statement from the coalition of northern groups, it was so disappointing for them to lambast the Southern governors, talking about how they are sort of aligning themselves with criminals and what have you, which I find so ironic, because no such statement was issued when we saw photo ops with bandits. They were silent about that. Where is the allegiance with criminals, if not that? So that's really unfortunate. But the generality, I believe, do support the resolutions of the Southern governors as pure common sense at this point.
Is this Laswellian?
Well, the coalition of northern groups, well, in the real sense of it, it's a fringe group in the north. And I think we can confidently say that. However, the coalition of northern groups may well be expressing the concerns of certain elements in the north with regard to the resolutions of the 17 southern governors at the meeting they held in Lagos this week. The point is that, in fact, even in their statement, they were accusing of certain persons in the north as collaborating with southern governors to sabotage the north. They mentioned specifically the name of Nasir El-Rufai, the governor of Kaduna State. I think they also mentioned another person, a former governor. And they described the resolutions taken by the southern governors as a gang-up against the North. So the question to ask is, how do the 10 resolutions of the governors of the South amount to a gang-up against the North, or a support for persons they describe as persons guilty of treasonable felony, even when there has been no court decision in that regard, persons they describe as felons, even when there has been no court ruling in that regard, or persons they describe as arsonists. I think what all of this points to is the division, the political, ideological divide between certain groups in the South and also certain groups in the North. And I think that that is the main thing that we have to worry about, that increasingly you have this division whereas government is consistently talking about national unity and the need to foster unity. The challenge for government is to see how one day we will arrive at a point whereby, there will be this meeting of minds, this elite consensus, this unity that everyone talks about vapidly without any concrete attempt to ensure that there is unity in Nigeria. Yes, naturally, the Middle Belt will support the South. There's a group called the Southern and Middle Belt Forum. And consistently, both the Middle Belt and the South have always spoken along the same direction because they feel that there are issues in Nigeria, issues about fairness, about justice, about equity, and the pervasive assumption or conclusion that in Nigeria, anytime that the North is in power through any of its representatives, they don't play fair. So how can we get that Nigeria where it does not matter where the leader at the center comes from, where fairness will be the main order of the day? These are all the issues that have been raised by the Southern governors at the heart itself of the unresolved national question. As for rotational presidency, Anthony A. Akinola of the University of Oxford has done a book on this. And the main argument is that, look, rotational presidency is not a constitutional matter. It's not in the Constitution. It was a handmaiden, it was a device for peace, justice, and equity that was introduced by the People's Democratic Party in 1999. And the PDP came up with this idea of rotation, again, to deal with this issue of federal character and fairness and equity. And yes, the only way in which the coalition of northern groups may be right is they're saying, look, rotation is a party matter. It's not a constitutional matter. But I think the southern governors, they also have a moral right to say, look, the rotation of power is a major issue. It may not be in the Constitution, but it's not everything that is written down in the Constitution for you to have an open society in which people have a sense of belonging. And I do not think that the southern governors should be crucified for defending fairness and justice. They did not say you should go to the southeast or the south-south or the southwest. They just said, given fairness, you should come to the south. And if you look at the history, the North had dominated political power in Nigeria for the better part of the time, since 1960, both military and civilian. So, but the coalition of northern groups, if they insist that power should go to the North, whatever, the decision in 2023 should be made by the Nigerian people. And every effort should be made to ensure that it's the will of the people that prevails. The Nigerian people must decide, not governors, not coalitions.
All right, that's all on news headline. We'll take a short break now. When we return, we'll have Rotus, Michael, Adesua, Aaron to give us updates on Africa, global business, COVID-19, sporting activities across the globe. Stay with us.
Welcome back to the Morning Show here on Arise News. Our dependable Rotus Adiri is here to give us an African business update. Over to you, Rotus.
Good morning, Tundu. Good morning, Doctor. Good morning, Rufai. Good morning to all our viewers. African Business Update today. We're focusing on leather and textiles in Nigeria. Vice President Osibanjo yesterday was at the launch of the National Leather and Leather Products Policy Implementation Plan. This is a subset of Nigeria's Industrial Revolution Plan. And basically, this plan wants to boost foreign exchange, boost employment, through the leather industry. Now, essentially, there's lots of partnerships here. They're partnering with the European Union, partnering with the German Society of International Cooperation, and this plan is going to be implemented through the Nigerian Institute of Leather Science and Technology. They've got 9 extension centers through 6 of the geopolitical zones, and it's supposed to boost the leather value chain. The value chain includes animal husbandry, tanneries, and then FLPs, finished leather products. I mean, what else? The Nigerian Economic Summit Group, the NESG, projected about a year or two ago that the leather industry could be worth $1 billion by 2025. They also said it can employ about an extra 700,000 jobs. Right now, the industry does about 750,000 jobs. 500,000 of those are in FLPs, which is the finished leather products. They're collaborating with the military for research and development on, leather designs for military gear. Currently, the few industries, or rather the few businesses in the leather industry that are survive on contracts from the military. Also, let me just join this together. Textiles. The federal government is looking, or rather the Katsina state government wants to partner with the federal government, and it's indicated this back in middle of 2019, to create a textile park in Katsina in the local government area of Funtua. And they're saying that could produce about 70,000 jobs or so in that particular area. So we can just put this all together, right? As far as the current challenges that the textile, apparel, and footwear sector is facing. If you look at GDP for Q1 2021, manufacturing grew by 3.4%, but the manufacturing sector is made up of 13 sectors. Now, textile, apparel, and footwear contracted by 4.5% in the first quarter of the year. In fact, it's been in recession since the second quarter of 2020. Contracted by about 5.5% in Q4 of 2020. I think it wasn't since Q1 of 2020, of the first quarter of 2020, that we saw growth. And there should be a chart there where you'll see textile, apparel, and footwear basically struggling. And I think it was just cement, which grew by 11% in the first quarter of this year, and also food and tobacco. This is what drove manufacturing sector, which again grew by 3.4%. But specifically, textiles, footwear, apparel, it's been struggling. I mean, one of the issues that the industry is facing is access to leather. The tanneries in Kano and Kaduna, where most of the leather comes from, they're exporting it. There's been, if you look at Aba in the southeast, which has, I believe, produces about an estimate about 48 million shoes annually. They talked about, there was an article, I believe it was in this newspaper, that focused on their Aba and how they were getting people from Gabon and other neighboring countries to get their shoes. So a lot of leather is being exported to neighboring nations, which doesn't leave enough for those that want to actually produce here in the country. Also, there is the usual suspects, power. There's also the methods through which leather is produced in the country. Very manual, very slow. I mentioned Aba, at least if you use Aba as a proxy for the nation, producing about 48 million shoes. Vietnam, that has a fraction of our population, I think Vietnam's population is about 95, 96 million. They produce about 760 million shoes over in Vietnam. I think Kenya, Ethiopia, other countries are way ahead of us. So you've got those challenges that they are facing with respect to leather, also with respect to textiles. Now, of course, the Central Bank of Nigeria has done what it can to try to boost the textile sector, but these existing challenges are what are being faced. Now, another thing that needs to be mentioned, Vice President Osibanjo, at the launch of this program, he essentially parroted the NESG reports, which said that we can do 1 billion by 2025. 2025 is not that far from where we are now. We've got an election coming up. We've got other things that are going to be diverting the government's attention. And that's just an estimate, right? So how quickly can you get the value chain for leather and textiles working within the stipulated amount of time to be able to get to where this, because it's making all the headlines everywhere where it's saying that we can do $1 billion in leather by 2025 and create all these jobs. So, you know, there's a lot of challenges in the sector, and the business community is saying that estimate is a bit on the rosy side.
Okay, Rotus, we can jump in now. Thank you so much. Truth is, we can do 1 billion by 2025, but I also remember a Chinese adage that says, talk will not cook rice. You have to do the work. Leather is big deal. Shoes are big deal. Rotus, in the 70s in Kenya, a certain company called Bata came into Kenya. And Bata was the highest employer of labor in Kenya. They set up a shoe factory. Most people in Kenya, most top government elites in Kenya had shoe franchises and they sold barter shoes. And in the 70s, the most employment came out of leather. So it showed you the potential it's got. What is our problem here? Our problem is the fact that we smuggle all this leather out or we sell them for cheap. We always sell the raw materials. We don't finish up the product. What is the solution for me? The solution for me will be a lot of partnership. Will be a leather roadshow, a shoe roadshow. Since the 1600s, we've got leather here in Kano. The rich Moroccan leather a lot of people talk about is from Kano here. Let's do a roadshow. Bring in the biggest shoe manufacturers in the world, incentivize them to come and produce out of Nigeria. That's the way to go. Go into Aba, industrialize Aba, support them, give them what is necessary to produce on an industrial scale. That's the solution. We can get leather to employ hundreds of thousands of people. It's a big deal.
Yeah, if I could come in here, you'll recall maybe 5 years ago, there was a lot of press about how Nigerian leather was being used by Louis Vuitton, Ralph Lauren, the world's luxury brands. It gets exported, like you rightly said, to southern Italy, and their suppliers in southern Italy that take our leather all over the world. And then they now slap thousands and thousands of dollars on the price tag, and everybody like begs, steals, borrows, prostitutes themselves to own these brands. And it actually originated in Nigeria. So this is really an opportunity we've been missing. This came out 5 years ago. Like I said, there was a lot of press about it, and nothing was done. Here we go again with the glacial pace of governance. But finally, we appear to be getting there with this leather policy. So it's very doable.
Well, I think that the statements made by the Vice President at that sensitization workshop, they're all in order. We're talking about diversifying the economy, get more forex, increase opportunities, create jobs for Nigerians. But the key issues will have to be addressed. And what are these key issues? One, policy. What kind of policy has Nigeria or is Nigeria planning to put in place to encourage the leather industry in Nigeria? Kenya, which Rufai referred to. Kenya used to have export duty of 20%. On leather. Now, Kenya increased it to 80% to compel a situation whereby there will be backward integration and the local value chain will be improved upon. So what is Nigeria doing in terms of addressing the challenge of ensuring greater productivity at the local value chain end? Kano has the oldest and the largest, biggest, tannery tradition and industry in Nigeria. What kind of infrastructure is being provided to ensure that local producers can explore that value chain? Yes, we complain Louis Vuitton and others are getting the bulk of their supplies from Nigeria. That is the big problem that we have. The fact that we are primary producers, either with agriculture or with leather and skin or whatever. What are we doing in Nigeria to encourage the local industry? All of that will include policies with regard to forex, with regard to infrastructure. And then finally, when are we going to start by banning the consumption of hides and skin by Nigerians? When will the Nigerian government take the bold step to ban the consumption of pomo and bokoto? Because half of what is produced in Nigeria is even consumed. And yet, scientists tell us that those special delicacies have very little nutritional value. You may think that that is a joke, but I think that there is great potential in terms of deepening and enriching the value chain and providing the right policies and the infrastructure to back it up. Important subject you have brought. Yes, thank you.
Very important. Thank you, Reuters. Moving on now to more business updates. Michael Wilson joins us from London. Good morning, Mr. Wilson.
Good morning. Good morning. Yeah, shares in Asia Pacific very mixed actually. After losses on Wall Street and the S&P, Hong Kong down about 0.75%, China down about 0.5%, and so on. So basically, a search for direction, just as it always is. Nothing major happening this week in terms of economic numbers for analysts to get hold of. Really, shares of the Chinese Tesla rival Xpeng fell on its Hong Kong debut. It listed in listed in Hong Kong rather. It's already listed in the US, and sometimes these companies have what's known as a secondary listing. It's usually in Hong Kong. This is where a company listed on one exchange goes on to sell shares in another. Anyway, that's down. DD shares too. Now, remember China's crackdown on DD, which we talked about yesterday. Shares yesterday. Now people have sort of come back from holiday in the United States, the Independence Day holiday, down about 19%. And China, is still cracking down on these high-tech companies. And also, China's central bank said on Tuesday to call for a shutdown of a company, doesn't name which one it is, was suspected of providing software services for virtual currency transactions. So this is lashing out at digital currencies again in China. Nothing new. It's been going on since 2013. We've been reporting it sort of on a weekly basis. So cryptocurrencies and tech have seen it's estimated about $800 billion wiped off their value as a result of this crackdown. There's probably more to come. Right, we were talking about OPEC yesterday, and the consensus now about it is, given that there wasn't any agreement, and given there's a lot of infighting going on, particularly between Saudi and the UAE, if you remember, the OPEC was going to add 400,000 barrels a day to the market in a month, starting in August, and then it would continue towards the end of the year. It's possible, say some analysts, it might be able to work something out, but it's looking very, very difficult at the moment. Again, not the first time that these people have disagreed. You have to ask yourself two big questions about it. What is the purpose of OPEC, quite honestly? Number one, that's the really basic one. And did you answer that question, will the UAE actually stay within it? These are big questions. I don't know the answers to them, but these are the kind of things the market's actually asking itself right now. As far as the United States is concerned, falls on Wall Street yesterday, got rather ahead of itself. But this is quite important, I think. Geopolitics. Kurt Campbell, who is the White House coordinator for Indo-Pacific, has said that the US and China can coexist peacefully, and the relationship should not be viewed, as he put it, as a new Cold War. There will be periods of uncertainty, but I do believe that China and the United States can coexist peacefully. Let's hope so. The US cancelled its $10 billion computing Jedi product, the cloud thing we were talking about, reversed that decision to award it to Microsoft. It's now going to Amazon Plus. That's added about 5% to the shares. And of course, Jeff Bezos doesn't mind that at all. His fortune increasing to over $200 billion, probably. Global chip shortage, we know all about that. Samsung, though, nevertheless forecasting a 53% jump in quarterly profits as a result of that, as a result of further demand and so on not being met. Demand for electronic components has actually surged, as you know. Again, something we've been discussing regularly. People have been shifting their activities online. Chip manufacturers have struggled and so on. As far as the UK is concerned, and COVID, the big problem, of course, is, stacking up, get off your flight and so on, where'd you go and all the rest of it. Heathrow is trialling fast tracking for vaccinated arrivals. That may well help. We'll get more details on that as the week reveals itself. We're all back to work, Freedom Day, the 19th of July and so on. But health chiefs are saying that the UK faces weeks of workplace chaos. If you think about it, what's going to happen is people will go back to work. But if one person, for example, is found to be suffering from anything new actually happening, then it will mean that two people have to stay off work. And that could get to 1.4 million people having to self-isolate. So Health Secretary Sajid Javid has talked about self-isolation rules being lifted on August the 16th. It's incredibly complicated right now. And I think these are lessons being learned. How do you actually get people back to work? That should read trialing, not trailing, by the way. Sorry. Okay, commodities. Oil at its highest level in 6 months. Unsurprisingly, that, of course, that's to do with OPEC, to do with the uncertainty and so on. Now, it sounds good, doesn't it, that oil gets to these kind of prices. People are already saying that if it gets to over $80 a barrel, there'll be a major shift in the way that people look at production. And it may not be good for revenue-hungry countries to have the oil price at that kind of level, simply because it it brings more countries in. Russia, we do not know how much they will unofficially release, and also we do not know what the attack from green energy and the shale industry might well be, because it's only a commodity after all. That's the most important thing. Back to you.
Right. Well, quickly. First, let me start with the metals. All the metals seem to be appreciating. Gold in particular, with Serbia, Thailand, and Ghana increasing their gold holdings. Even silver, palladium, and platinum, are appreciating in terms of value. Even, gold that have been suffering for the better part of this year. Does this have anything to do about fears about inflation and the Fed's, plans with regard to inflation? The Fed chief, later today would say something about inflation. And then quickly, I wanted to talk about JEDI, which the Pentagon, the Department of Defense in the United States, has withdrawn from it the cloud contract that was controversial between Microsoft and Amazon. Is it over? What should we expect next? And does this have anything to do with Jassy taking over from Jeff Bezos? Because within 48 hours of Andy Jassy taking over, the stock prices of Amazon, the stock price has appreciated. And then we have this development from the Pentagon saying that controversial matter with the JEDI cloud contract will now be suspended and there will be a fresh round. What kind of man is Andy Jassy?
I want to piggyback on that, and not just because I'm a huge Star Wars fan. I also want you to address the allegations that President Trump weighed in favor of Microsoft, seeing as he absolutely loathed Jeff Bezos, used to call him Jeff Bozo, and the kind of executive pressure that was allegedly applied. That will be very familiar to us on this side of in this neck of the woods.
Michael, you can answer that, but before I make my point, Tudu, you piggyback on that because you're the biggest Star Wars fan.
I'm the hugest Star Wars fan ever.
I know.
The force is strong with me.
Yeah, may the force be with you. All right, Michael, your answers?
Okay, right. First of all, then, a lot. So as far as JEDI is concerned, I don't know what Trump was thinking about, quite honestly. I don't think it's anything to do with Andy Jassy. I just think it's a way of reversing one of those kind of decisions. It may well be offered to Amazon, but it may well also be offered to other companies as well as Amazon too. Whatever the inside thinking of the U.S. administration is, good luck to them. Jeff Bezos is relatively happy, but then again, he's gone away. Andy Jassy has an enormous job. Basically, he's got to continue the ongoing and unstoppable run of Amazon, and also he's got to come to terms with the way in which big tech is going to be investigated hugely by the Democrats. So it's a very, very rocky road, big boots to follow. A rule in life, really, don't try to follow a success because it'll never work. But the markets liked Amazon and like the change simply because he's been there as chief of staff for a very, very long time. Jassy has been there since 2002, working as a real sort of, chief of staff as far as Amazon's concerned, making sure that the ever energetic Jeff Bezos actually did go to meetings and you could track him down and ask him questions. So I think he's got a huge job, but the markets are relatively confident about that. As far as inflation's concerned, yes, people traditionally would be buying gold for that, but I think there's a lot more, actually. I think it's a lot more as far as the precious metals are concerned, not much gold, but things like palladium and the rest, because quite simply the growth in electric vehicles, and somebody has got to actually get to terms with the manufacture of those, and so therefore rare minerals are going to be increasing in value. So a bit to do with inflation, but much more to do with car production. And inflation, of course, well, that's maybe a longer one that we seem to have every day, and maybe that's one for another day too.
Okay, Michael, real quickly, why is it that British companies are so cheap that they're snapping them up quickly? Over 360 companies. Now Rishi Sunak is trying to change the laws for purchase, saying that even when you go to the market as a British company, you must still hold some certain percentage as a founder. Quickly.
it's basically what's happened is that a combination of Brexit and the pandemic has put a lot of companies on the block as far as private equities are concerned. They've got their teeth into it. They think that a lot of companies are undervalued. This is what's happened with Morrison, but that is not over yet. I'm reading that Sainsbury's might be the next one, actually. Why not? You know, it's got 80% of it freehold properties it owns. It's got a large cash generation business. These are big cash generation businesses, and they're looking actually quite good. So it's fashionable for the moment. You're absolutely right. Over 360 private equity companies have gone to private equity since the beginning of the year. Yeah, it's looking undervalued, and I think that there'll be calls, certainly from the Treasury, certainly from MPs and so on, to make sure that we don't actually let all the family jewels, as we put it, go abroad. But it's all about price in the end.
I think Ken Morrison would turn in his grave when he sees what is happening to Morrison's now. But thank you so much.
Ken Morrison.
Okay. We lost the connection already. All right. Thank you so much, Michael, once again. Adesua Mora, good morning to you, Adesua.
Good morning, guys.
Yes.
Now, health systems in some parts of the world are buckling under the rates of new infections and deaths from Southeast Asia and Indonesia to Africa here, where you have countries struggling with the rates of infections and deaths. As I said, this is a concern for the WHO, warning it is too soon to return to normality, as some countries are relaxing measures as well. Some others are imposing partial lockdowns. The figures as they stand this morning, according to the Johns Hopkins University, almost 4 million global coronavirus deaths, over 184 million others infected, and over 3.2 billion vaccine doses have been administered. Here in Nigeria, 96 new infections and no related deaths were recorded in the last 24 hours in Nigeria. Lagos is responsible for 66 out of the 91 new infections. Let's take a look at the latest vaccination figures against COVID-19 in Nigeria. For the first dose, you have 2.5 million, and for the second dose, you have about 1.3 million. A total of the vaccine doses available in the country, again, is 4,024,000. So Nigeria is fast running out of vaccine for COVID-19. Meanwhile, the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency, that's the agency responsible for the vaccine rollouts in Nigeria, dedicated its weekly briefing yesterday to addressing misinformation about COVID-19 vaccination in Nigeria. The agency's boss, Dr. Faisal Shuaibu, says the country is witnessing an increasing wave of COVID-19 misinformation and disinformation, despite utilizing 3.9 million doses, representing 96% of the 4,024,000 doses available in the country, with no deaths related to the exercise recorded in the country. Now, Dr. Abati, you brought this up earlier this week. Recently, videos have flooded social media and messaging platforms claiming that the vaccines have magnetic property that could alter DNAs, it lights up bulbs, and even leads to death. While the NPHCDA says it's all false, the vaccine has no magnetic property or ingredients that could produce electromagnetic field, and it is safe. Dr. Shuaibu is urging everyone to take informed steps to guard against being misled by mischief makers or conspiracy theories. Still at that presser yesterday, Dr. Faisal Shuaibu was asked about the EU not recognizing the COVID shield, which is a copy of the AstraZeneca jab made in India, which has been widely distributed to African countries through COVAX, including Nigeria. Let's listen to what he had to say.
The World Health Organization actually came out very clearly to clear the air, that it doesn't mean that there is any inferiority in terms of the quality of the vaccination. I'm sure in the next few days you will read in the reports that indicate that the European Union will accept vaccine certificates from those countries that have used the Covishield or Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine from India.
So there you have it. Dr. Shuaibu is saying that the World Health Organization is looking into the matter. The AstraZeneca Oxford vaccine, which is made by the Serum Institute in India, otherwise known as the COVID Shield, is safe. Quickly away from Nigeria, Tunisia has broken its record for positive COVID cases, with almost 8,000 confirmed deaths on Tuesday in Tunisia. The previous record was 6,776. That was 6 days ago. Now, the health ministry in Tunisia also recorded 119 deaths. Hospitals are struggling with influx of these new cases and staff shortages. At the moment, public celebrations, sporting and cultural events are prohibited until July 14th in 4 regions, but the government is not considering a national lockdown. Only 1.8 million of its 12 million population has received the first dose of vaccine. Less than 600 others have received a second dose. And finally, an update for our viewers. Israel finally struck a deal to unload hundreds of thousands of its unused Pfizer COVID vaccines to South Korea. South Korea is seeing highest infection rates in 7 months, and they actually said yesterday it will receive 700,000 doses of the Pfizer-BioNTech coronavirus vaccine from Israel on loan this week in a bid to speed up its immunization. Under this vaccine swap announced by both governments, South Korea will give Israel back the same number of shots already on order from Pfizer in September and October. Israeli Prime Minister Naftali Bennett describes this as a win-win deal.
Well, let's start with Tunisia. Tunisia is in Africa. It faces a situation now of an upsurge in infection rates, 7,930 actually yesterday, bringing total to 455,000 and a total of 15,000 deaths. That's another indication that Africa has a very serious problem on its hands. According to the African CDC, Africa in total has up to about 36,000 cases per day. And it's not only Africa that is affected. Latvia, a country, has decided that employers of labor who do not insist that their employees should take the vaccine, will have to be sanctioned by the state. That's how serious the matter is. In Mexico, the numbers are going up. In Brazil, the numbers are going up. In Mexico, they had a beauty pageant over the weekend. 14 out of the Miss World, Miss Mexico contestants tested positive. Even at the beginning of the pageant, they had said that they did not have any issues. And you mentioned the whole of Southeast Asia. You mentioned South Korea. So the numbers are going up. France is beginning to prepare for a 4th wave. Now, in all of these cases, where does that leave Nigeria? Where, as I keep saying, people are partying and jollofing on a daily basis. All the party points are filled up. And yet, we have not achieved as much progress as other jurisdictions. You mentioned the head of the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency, Dr. Faisal Shaib. Well, let's thank Dr. Faisal Shaib. In paragraph 1 of his 16-paragraph address, he praised the media for the great work that the media has been doing. But in paragraph 2, he complained about the social media. And in paragraph 3, he pointed out that the social media has been doing a lot of damage, promoting what he calls the metallic conspiracy theory, the magnetic conspiracy theory, he calls it. And that was what led to that demonstration. A subject we had discussed previously on this program, to point out that, look, there's a lot of misinformation, disinformation out there. And then, of course, he said Nigeria has the best vaccine rollout in Africa. Well, I don't know who told him that. Is that proven?
In terms of numbers.
Where did he get that from? Because if you look at how much progress has been made in Nigeria, okay, 4.024 million vaccines. We've done 3.9 million out of that, representing 96% of what we have. But if you look at it in terms of the population, we seem not to be going far enough. We would like to hear from Dr. Shaib what Nigeria is doing about additional vaccines so that we can have a consistent, sustainable vaccine rollout. Other parts of the country, like the United Kingdom, they are even thinking of additional jabs, booster vaccination, they call it, which I think is selfish. The US is also talking about it. Here, how far have we gone? Some other smaller countries have done better than Nigeria.
Adesh, I want your take on what lessons can be learned from this little slight political debacle that has happened with the Israel Pfizer vaccines having to go across the world to South Korea when charity ought to have begun at home. The Palestinians were offered but rejected it, saying that what Israel had told them was that the vaccines expire July, August, but that they actually expire like in the next few weeks. It's too soon for them to actually administer. So rather than accept and waste them, now Israel has taken them to South Korea. Do you think that Israel should have gone further than just offering vaccines that are sort of on the doorstep of expiration and actually mobilize people to ensure that they get those jabs in Palestinian arms, if really that was the intent? I would have thought Naftali Bennett, in trying to offer this political olive branch, would have gone all the way to ensure that those vaccines do not actually waste. What do you think? Is it enough to just offer the vaccines, or do you have to offer vaccines and logistics when you know it's necessary?
Well, Tundu, you know, with the COVID-19 pandemic, we cannot rule out the politics of it, and you're very correct. This has been politicized. However, you must also think and prioritize what your needs are. This is a scarce commodity, whether we like it or not. Vaccines are scarce globally, and you recall that Israel had said it is speaking to several countries, including the UK. That deal did not go through with the UK. However, South Korea does have the infrastructure. They have less vaccines. They're actually running out of vaccines, but they are seeing an upsurge, and they feel that they have the infrastructure to vaccinate the people before the expiry date of the 31st of July. So I also think that apart from politics, countries also need to prioritize what they need.
All right, thank you so much, Alicia.